Welcome! I am the Master of the House of Water Virtue. Tonight, we will explore a story together. First, let us hear its name in its own tongue. Han Shan and Shi from Guoqing Temple.
You know, the names themselves, they really do tell a story. First, we have Han Shan, which means cold mountain. It wasn't just the name of the place he lived, this cold cliff. It eventually became his own name. He was the mountain. And then there's Shi. His name means the foundling, or picked up, because that's exactly what he was, a child found by a Chan master. Right from the beginning, their origins are so simple, so elemental, and that's really the key to understanding them.
So where and when does our story take place? Well, we're going back to the Tang Dynasty. This was a true golden age for Chinese poetry and for Chan Buddhism, which you might know by its Japanese name, Zen. Now, this was a time and a place where enlightenment, well, it wasn't just something you'd find buried in old scriptures. It could spark to life in a sudden laugh or in the simplest of gestures. That's the world we're stepping into.
And that's really the heart of this story, isn't it? This idea that something incredibly profound can be hidden in something that looks simple or even strange. So as we begin, let me leave you with a question to hold on to. What if the greatest wisdom was hidden behind a mask of madness?
So let's meet our first character, Han Shan, the mad monk of Cold Mountain. Honestly, nobody really knew where he came from. He was just there, a part of the landscape, an enigmatic hermit whose true home was the wilderness of the Tiantai Mountains.
If you saw him, you'd probably just think he was a beggar. He wore a birch-bark hat, his clothes were all tattered, and he walked in wooden clogs. His face was gaunt, weathered by the wind and the cold. But his spirit was something else entirely. Transcendent. The words he spoke were often bizarre, but they held this deep truth that almost no one could see. Most people, they just dismissed him as a madman.
But this hermit of Cold Mountain, this supposed madman, he did have one friend. His only close friend, really. A man named Shi. And Shi's life was a world away from the wild cliffs. He worked in the kitchen of the grand Guoqing Temple, not far from the mountain. And their friendship, it was built on something so simple, so humble. It wasn't about grand declarations. It was about leftovers. Every day, Shi would save whatever food was left over in the kitchen, and he'd put it in a bamboo tube for Han Shan. That simple act of kindness, that's what sustained their bond. Here's where we see these two worlds collide. You have the monks in the temple, right? To them, these two were just foolish, noisy beggars, a nuisance to be driven away, sometimes with sticks. But then you have how Han Shan and Shi actually lived. They were joyful, they were unbothered. When the monks chased them away, they would just clap their hands, let out a great laugh, and wander off, completely untouched by it all. And this went on for years. Just a quiet little story about two eccentric friends. And you know, that might have been the end of it. But then, someone new arrived. A new local governor, a man named Lu Yin. And he carried a secret with him. A secret about these two friends that was about to change everything.
You see, before the governor came to this post, he'd had a conversation with a very wise Chan master. And this master told him something incredible. He said that those two ragged figures at the temple weren't just beggars. They were bodhisattvas. Now, a bodhisattva, in Buddhism, is an enlightened being, someone who delays their own final piece to help everyone else find their way. The master revealed that Han Shan, the mad poet, was actually Manjusri, the bodhisattva of wisdom. And Shi, the humble kitchen worker, was Samantabhadra, the bodhisattva of action.
So can you imagine? The governor, a man of immense worldly power, now knows he has two hidden saints in his jurisdiction. Of course, he goes to the temple to pay his respects. And this visit, this is what leads to the final, famous encounter. It's a meeting between the world of officialdom and the echoes in the stone.
So the governor arrives. He finds them and bows low, offering gifts of fine clothes and medicine. But the moment he does this, they know. They know their cover is blown. And they cry out, "Thieves, retreat!" As if being recognized, being labeled, was a kind of theft of their freedom. They turn and flee back toward Cold Mountain, the governor and his men trying to keep up. And then they just disappear into a crack in a cliff face. And right before everyone's eyes, the rock seals itself shut behind them. And they were gone. Forever.
So, what was left? Han Shan the man was gone, but his words remained. The governor, feeling this deep reverence, ordered that every poem of Han Shan's be collected. Every scrap he'd written, on leaves, on trees, on the walls of village houses, and they found over 200 of them. Those poems were gathered into an anthology, a collection that we still have today.
But, for all the beauty of his poetry, perhaps their most timeless legacy isn't a poem at all. It's a simple exchange of words, an ageless question and an equally ageless answer that offers a completely different kind of wisdom.
So, Han Shan asks his friend, he asks, "The world slanders me, deceives me, insults me, laughs at me, looks down on me, despises me, hates me, and lies to me. How should I deal with it?" It's a question we've all felt, haven't we? When you're faced with all that negativity, what do? How are you supposed to handle it? And Shide's reply is, well, it's so simple and yet so profound. He says, just endure him, yield to him, let him be, avoid him, be patient with him, respect him, and ignore him. Wait a few more years, and then you will see him. It's not about fighting. It's not about winning an argument. It's a path of non-resistance. And that last line is everything, isn't it? Wait a few more years, and then you will see him. See what becomes of him and of his anger when faced with the simple passing of time.
Now this isn't weakness. Not at all. It's a kind of immense strength. It's the wisdom of water, which yields to everything in its path, but in the end overcomes it all. And Shide actually elaborated on this very idea in another verse.
It's such a powerful image. If someone hits me, I lie down and sleep. Spittle on my face, I let it dry on its own. Think about that. The idea is to not add your own energy to the fire. You save your own strength, and their frustration, it has nothing to latch onto. It just dissolves. He's reminding us that all the gold in the world can't save you from impermanence. The real goal is to leap out of that red fire pit of conflict and find a state of cool clarity.
So in the end, this story of Han Shan and Shide, it's more than just a legend about two masters. It's really a question for all of us. When the world shouts, with all its noise and judgment, how do we listen to the silence?